taxes are the only certainty. Will 20% of people of society? And I have made it on my own in this world. Will not to take care of time around a 2-year-old. I'm gonna start the old nation and do my own thing, and I will be king. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. Well, let me talk a bit about the weather. You must admit it's not very clever. Don't get me wrong, it's not an anti-British song. Well, there is nowhere I would rather be wrong. I'm gonna start my own nation and do my own thing, and I will be king. I'm gonna start my own nation with the self-preservation. I'm gonna start my own nation with the self-preservation. There are just a few things that I would like to say about the UK and how I think it has gone astray. Don't get me wrong, it ain't all bad. I love the crazy fads, like England always buggering up, but you know we're gonna win the World Cup. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with the self-preservation.
Keep the red flag flying here.
And welcome to the 92nd edition of Political Unmuted, everybody. It is so good to see you. Thank you for coming and joining us. People are already beginning to join in on the chat stream. And I want to particularly welcome Jane and Mia and Ruth and Jacqueline and Leanne. And you'll find out in a little while. But first of all, I'm going to introduce you to the panel for tonight. Stuart, hi.
Hello.
Sort of, if you're new to the show, Stuart is one of our regulars, and he's known for his short sentences and wisdom, and very often we'll all be chatting and making loads of comments, and Stuart will come in with one sentence which just floors everything. And then a returner to the show, Neil Terry, which is so good to see you. Hello.
Hi, John. How are you?
Hi. Now, you're not a regular on the show, so Neil, just tell us a little about yourself for people who are listening in who might not immediately know you as part of the team.
Yeah, I'm a photojournalist based in Bradford, mainly working for the Morning Star. Well, they take most of my work more than anyone else, but I work for anyone who pay me money, basically. But you'll often see me on picket lines, protests, demonstrations, anything that's good, I tend to be there, and usually it's often good because I'm there. No, not really.
Well, I'm sure you liven things up because you've got an amazing sense of humour. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That's just great. And what a job, what a job. And then we've got somebody who we've never seen before, Ray Goodspeed. Now, Ray, I'm somewhat in awe of you because everybody says how wonderful and amazing you are. And
no pressure then.
I've just kept away from you because I'm scared to death. Ray, tell us a bit about yourself so we know who you are.
I'm a lay pipe member. I'm a retired gent. I told my leaving speech at my school where I was teaching English as a foreign language. I said I was retiring to devote more time to the overthrow of capitalism. And as Neil said, that's pretty much what I do. Protesting, picketing, organising my local. I'm a secretary of my local Labour Party in East London, Leighton and Wanstead. And I guess STT people know me from LGSM stuff and the movie Pride, which is based on the lives of me and a few friends of mine. So when I was a mere strip of a youth, I did that. So, but now I'm a retired kind of traveling lefty troublemaker, I suppose. And I'm also involved in the website Left Horizons.
Thank you, Ray. Absolutely fabulous. So I see on the stream that
we've lost you.
Come back to us, John. Come back to us.
Great things. Just before we go any further, you will. My internet connection's unstable. That's all I needed. Just before we go any further, you'll notice that tonight we're all male. Now this is the 92nd Political Unmuted on the Socialist Think Tank platform. Before that, there were 80-some editions on Aycliffe Radio, going out over radio, and in all that time, we have never before not had a lady on the team, and we're all noting that with sadness. But the ladies we normally have, one's gone off to sort of try and become an MP, the other one's bushed after the gala, and the third one's on holiday. So and everybody is just sort of unavailable after what happened at the weekend. So here we are. But that's why I mentioned all those ladies on the chat stream. I am going to take a special care to introduce you into the conversation so that we have that female element, which is just so vital for gender balance. And God bless you all. But let's start. My son's dulcet tones disappeared into the clatter, and I don't know who am I going to start with. Ray, you're the newbie. What's your moment of the week?
Oh, my moment of the week was, well, of course, there's been so many. It's been a hell of a week. My real moment of the week, really, though, and I think we need to make sure we don't forget this, is the BBC documentary, the Panorama documentary, on the documented killings, the killings of unarmed and restrained prisoners in Afghanistan by the SAS. Now, make it clear here, if the BBC tell me it's sunny, I have to go outside and check. But nevertheless, even the BBC occasionally must tell the truth, and this is a shocking documentary of just systematic murder authorized at the highest level by officers. It's a shocking state of affairs.
I saw that too, and these are British soldiers who we taught that it's the Russians who are doing the war crimes, and yet these are British soldiers doing this. I mean, what's going to happen about this, Ray? Have you any idea? Is it going to be taken further?
Well, who knows? I don't know. You're absolutely right. If this was Russians found for doing this, it'd be wall to wall. It'd be 24-hour television. And it's worth saying. I think what normally happens in situations like this is the ordinary squaddies get kind of disciplined, if anything, and then they somehow managed to hush it up and pretend they were rogue elements or bad apples, which is always really unfair. So people often say, oh, it's really unfair on the squaddies when the officers get away with it. But this has clearly been signed off. There's nonsense about, oh, well, we restrained him, then we sent him back in the house, and suddenly, even though his hands were tied, he found a grenade and an AK-47, so we had to shoot him. And it was just, these nonsense things were signed off by their officers. 54 deaths by one brigade in 6 months, and that's just one brigade in one area. God knows how many hundreds of people were like extrajudicially just murdered by the British Army. And I think we need to make it clear. You say if it was Russia, we'd be all over the place, but because it's this myth of the British are different, you know. Ask the Kenyans and the Malayans about that, you know, Malaysians.
I mean, as you know, I write history books, and I've been approached by the recently by the publishers who were going back through their back catalogue, bringing them up to date. And one of the main changes are happening is the way we have to address the British Empire, and reducing the kind of heroism with which that was always taught in the past, and actually beginning to share some of the horrific reality of what that meant for so many people. Thank you, Ray. A sad one. Neil, what was your moment of the week?
I have two slightly connected ones. In fact, no, they are connected. By far, my moment of the week was a little party we had in Durham. A couple of people turned up for the Durham Miners Gala. It wasn't that busy, to be honest with you. I mean, there are only around about 200,000 people there. You know, we could have done better, but maybe it's too far for many Southerners to travel. I don't know. But it was fantastic. It was a brilliant event. It was a highlight to spend a lot of the day, somewhat unintentionally, but nonetheless, it was great. Spend most of the day with the Women's Banner Group, who've unveiled their new banner. Well, they haven't unveiled it. It was marched for the first time at Durham this year, called Myrtle, named after Myrtle McPherson, who's Heather Wood's mum, who's quite instrumental in that. And Heather Wood's also a member of STT as well. So to see some of the key parts of that day, of that being marched, and also be there for the blessing as well of the banner at the cathedral was a genuine pleasure. Some of it was just happened to be there in the right moment at the right time, such as photographing Jeremy Corbyn with a banner, and getting a photograph of Jeremy taking a picture of the banner on his phone as well. It was just.
I know I'm interrupting you, but I love those photographs where the photograph is a photograph of somebody taking a photograph. It sort of blows your mind. I think that it's fabulous.
I mean, also what I liked as well, because when we tend to think of the Durham Miners Gala, we mainly tend to think of men for whatever reason that is. But I had 12 photos in the Morning Star yesterday, the vast majority of which were women in one way or another. You know, all of the pictures focused on women, and I was really that really made me smile when I got home from Glasgow last night. From doing another job, that I was, you know, it really did make me smile. And not only did the reporting feature mainly on women, but also there was a feature in the middle of the paper as well, dedicated entirely to the Women's Banner Group as well. And that came about purely by chance, because we were sat in the Marriott Hotel, the County Hotel, with Lynn Gibson, and Pete Lazenby from the Morning Star was there, and just did an interview there and then, and we decided that was going to be the feature for Monday's paper. So I'm incredibly proud of that, and I know that Laura, Lynn, Sam, etc., is statistically happy as well, and it's their work that's got them there, and I'm glad they're getting a little bit of recognition. The other highlight of the week as well is when I arrived in Durham on Friday evening. The very first thing I saw as I was approaching the County Hotel was Anne Scargill and Betty Cook sat in the beer garden, and sat and had a drink with them for a couple of hours. And One thing I'd have to say is that if you know who Anne Scargill is, go and buy her book if you haven't already. She'll be annoyed with me if I don't tell you to go and buy a book. It's a fantastic book. I've bought 2 copies of it myself. One I lost, the other one I've given away so that someone else can read it. But it's a fantastic, brilliant book. So yeah, I'm still on a high from Saturday, even though it was scorching hot. There was no shade. And anyone that felt the weight of my camera bag will know how much weight I was carrying around with me that day. And I'm still suffering now on Tuesday, we're on? Yeah, Tuesday. So yeah.
The gala is part of the fabric of County Durham. The Keith part of the social fabric, a big historical thing. Laura Pitcock did a lovely article on her Facebook. Thank you, Stuart. What was your moment of the week this week?
So it took place at the gala, and obviously it's a big moment where you see friends and comrades together. But a lot of the people that I met this time, I'd never physically met. I'd known them for years at this point, and I'd only seen them through Zoom. And I'm chair of my Unite Community branch. I have been for some time. I've been very active in the branch for a number of years. And there was a man stood with the Unite banner and the group, just looking at me, couldn't quite work out who I was. And I had to shout over and go, "Ian, it's me, Stuart," because he'd never seen me bigger than 2 inches on the screen before. He couldn't put it together. And there was a couple of moments like that. So that was an experience that I think won't come about again.
I am the secretary of my CLP, for what it's worth, and I was amazed to find that somebody from my CLP came up to the gala. It's an amazing meeting place of people. Ray was there, I know. And thank you, Neil, for those photos. It's so important.
From London, can I say? I was there
from London. My golly, well, that is a trek. But then you're a celebrity, we expect it from you. Jake Ratcliffe, moment of your week, seeing a play he'd written, performed. Oh, wow, sort of unbelievable. Jacqueline Hemmings, I've got you here, but you've found a new home. Is this it? Congratulations, well done. It's only temporary, you say. Sort of let's hope that you find somewhere permanent, but that's good. And Leanne Powell has become the social media officer of her branch. Critical elections are won and lost on that. Mia enjoyed watching bits of the gala on live streams. I missed all that, Mia. I'm glad you got to see it. Thank you, everybody, for your moments of the week. Let's move on because it's time for...
Now it's time for the big story.
Is that Paul? We can't hear it. Okay, here. It's time for the big story. The big story this week, everybody, is Johnson's resignation and its consequences. A sort of a seismic event in political history. Ray, why? What finally pushed him over the edge, do you think?
Listen, I've got a great deal of sort of irritation, if you like. I mean, apart from the obvious irritation, the man's a lying fool. But I find it, I mean, he was finally pushed out by this sort of sex and booze scandal, you know, the guy called this Pincher, which is, you know, you couldn't make that up if you tried. But of course, you know, there's been those kind of scandals in the House a lot. And on that particular thing, they think, oh, no, that's the last straw. But, you know, he's been lying through his teeth for his entire career. And suddenly he's brought down by this. But what really gets me on this is that, it's like, well, what we need is to go back to the old Conservative Party where they're all honourable. Now, it's a tricky one because they're honourable to each other. They had this sort of code of honour to each other sometimes, but they're never honourable to the likes of us. You know, Theresa May wasn't honourable when she sent vans round saying, you know, go home refugees or go home foreigners. You know, when they were deporting the Windrush people, that wasn't honourable. That they lie routinely to people generally, but because he's lied to within the club to other Tories, they think, oh, he's a terrible, terrible, dishonest man now, and therefore he has to go. Somebody once described it now as choosing his successor as being like, it's like trying to if you're at a rock concert and there's like 3 full blocked portaloos, you have to decide which one you want to get in. You know, it's just terrible, isn't it? I mean, a terrible situation. So, you know, okay, he's finally gone. They finally got rid of him. You know, there may be issues behind it to do with tax policy, but you know,
I mean, the Guardian said his toxic spell is broken, and Zoe Williams, the clowning turned to farce. I mean, do you really agree that it was as shallow as that sort of finally some kind of point was reached where he went too far, and we got rid of him? Or is this not just the knives out in the Tory party and greed and ambition of his rivals saw that opportunity?
Well, I think to me, I think if he'd managed to keep a lid on the actual lying, it's the fact that all this stuff became in the public. So they feel if they kept him there, that they would then lose votes from it and they'd lose popularity. So I think they've got rid of him in order to try and save the whole party, as if the rest of them are kind of paragons of virtue and have never told a fib in their lives. You know, all these people, they tell lies for a profession. That's their job, to tell lies and to fool the electorate. But you know, I think behind all that there is an attempt, I think, to sort of make, by some people at least, to sort of go back to that kind of proper austerity kind of Tory party, and there's other people who want to kind of ease into that more, go back, go down not quite so quickly down the tax cutting and cutting public expenditure route. But whichever way they do, they're doomed. I think their program's doomed anyway.
The Ruth Davison says, has he really resigned? And for a while it was doubtful whether he was going at all, wasn't it? I mean, the people said he was going to go. The Tories feared he was going to do a Trump. I mean, was there any chance once it all started to happen that he might be able to hang on? Was this just sort of alarmism to try and make headlines?
I don't know. I was disappointed he resigned because I was looking forward to him being dragged out the front door by his feet, holding on to the door jamb like poor Julian Assange was, you know. But you know, I guess he couldn't really have said once. You know, he couldn't have said once they voted against him in such huge numbers, and what 59 members of Parliament resigned from the government. I mean, that is some kind of record. I think it was also a record. The Education Secretary was appointed on one day and resigned the next, or 30. She was in the job 32 hours. I haven't researched it, but that must be a record.
She's going to get £16,000 severance pay.
Yeah,
for having lost that job.
The thing is, they got rid of him because he's a liar. They didn't get rid of him because he's a liar. They got rid of him because he was caught. They got rid of him because he was caught out as a liar. They don't care about lies. The ruling class lie to us routinely. That's their job.
Just some people are furious. The Daily Mail is absolutely stotting about the fact that he's gone. Has the assassination, the political assassination of Johnson by his colleagues, has it lost the Tories the red wall? Was he the only thing that kept that took the red wall, or do you think they'll manage to hang on to it now?
You can make a case for some of those. I hate the word the red wall, as most people do. I mean, the certain percentage of people who change their votes, quite a relatively small group of people in those seats it took to change the seats to Tory. And Johnson, I think, did through the Brexit thing. He just was very clear, very full of leadership on that. And he used the Brexit issue and got it through. So he did a good job. I'm not so sure I think he's probably lost a lot of those votes anyway. I think Johnson already lost those votes. I don't think they would have won the Red Wall if he'd stayed either. So what they want to do is just get rid of his kind of toxic, ludicrous lying and personal foibles, and just get somebody in who they can present as a sort of serious. But I don't think they will. I think they're probably going to lose a lot of those Red Wall seats anyway, unless our friend Starmer does something to, to make it impossible for him to win.
I mean, he's such a
be like taking
I
candy
can't
for
see him
candy.
doing anything that's upset that I forgot.
Never assume that Starmer can't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Worst Prime Minister, last question, Ray, worst Prime Minister ever. That's what the Scottish Record was saying. That's what the Guardian suggested.
In terms of character foibles, he probably is, yeah, I guess. But, he's a proven liar and a cheat. But, in terms of making life a misery for working people, the worst Prime Minister ever was Cameron and his mate Nick Clegg during the coalition. They got away with cuts and destroying the hopes and the aspirations of working class people way more than Thatcher did. Even they got away with things that Thatcher wouldn't have dared to try. So it's that coalition government, and then that's what really did damage.
I mean, I'm going to pinch some of
that's why I don't want the Liberals anywhere near any kind of progressive alliance coming anywhere near me. Thank you very much.
No, well, they'll just sell their allies down the river, go in with the Tories. I'm going to pinch one of Stuart's questions. When you're talking about Cameron and austerity and the way they doubled down on Thatcherism, I mean, is the loss of Johnson a bad thing for the Red Wall seats? I mean, did you believe this kind of levelling up agenda? Do you think he actually gave a damn about the Red Wall seats?
No, he gave a damn on how it looked. He was able to sort of lie more convincingly and use various sort of character traits to kind of, to have that so-called charisma, I guess. That's true. But he wasn't delivering on the Red Wall. The hospitals haven't been built. The rail infrastructure hasn't been built. Nothing's happened to actually improve those seats. All he's done actually is levering money specifically to those seats where he wants to hold on. So he might have done that. I guess he may have gone down the road of actually pouring money into one particular seat in order to keep it blue. Like they poured the money into Teesside once had the Tory mayor there, I guess.
Yes, Teesside did quite well, but Newton Aycliffe didn't do very well. Thank you so much, Stuart. Marina Hyde, the good news is that Johnson's going. The bad news is look who's coming. Are there any candidates you can see who aren't awful?
I think that they are collectively awful. The Tory candidate selection. There's some really awful ones. I understand for the most part, the candidates are coming out with a very strong, austerity position, one that's only going to be more damaging to the economy and the people of Britain. And some of the candidates have come out and said that they want to wind back on the welfare state and use the old, there's people who are fitting well, who could be working, who refuse to work. And the reality is, all the things that they're coming out with at the moment don't really marry up with the reality that's going on. They're telling us that we have 4% unemployment and only 1 million jobs going on, but there's so many people unemployed, taking all the money. And, at the same time that they're all rushing in to save the day from the last bunch of people who were running the country, they were all complicit in those actions. They all supported it. They all voted through 15 tax rises in the last 2 years. Not a single one of those candidates is legitimately moving towards lower taxes because they voted so many tax increases up through. It's there's not a good one amongst them. And while some of them are smart and savvy and popular, even I wouldn't trust them to run a bath.
I can't say this chap's name, and please forgive me. I should be able to. Sajid Javid.
Yeah.
He's talking about how demeaned the Tory party has come, how it needs to have a reckoning with itself, how it needs to shed all the sleaze and the corruption that it's managed. Do you not find that an amazing statement from someone who sat in that cabinet year after month, year after year with Johnson? Do you think he means that he intends to try and clear up all this stuff?
I think it's essentially just a rebranding effort. Nobody really wants to fix the problems of Westminster that are inherent of Westminster. The reason all those MPs went out and backed Boris Johnson on ITV, on BBC, on Sky is because they have a system called cabinet.
Collective responsibility.
Collective cabinet responsibility. Yeah. So, you know, they when you basically take the job, you're signing on to back whatever happens. And if you've got any real sense, you wouldn't sign on without knowing. If they had any real idea, and I think the evidence was there to show what kind of person Boris Johnson was, they knew he was a proven liar, that, you know, they knew where this was going. They still signed on and took them jobs. They took the pay and took the responsibility, and there needs to be consequences for doing that. And we're not seeing that. So the big job at the moment is to deny them the possibility of rebranding. Rishi Sunak can't rush into a job as Prime Minister to fix the issues that were caused by Rishi Sunak as Chancellor. He's not going to be able to fix his own mess. How we fix the mess is getting the whole bunch out and then actually start tackling the systems.
I mean, the Simon Jenkins in The Guardian says that the Labour Party is praying that the victor won't be Rishi Sunak. He thinks that Rishi Sunak is the worst news for the Labour Party. I mean, I don't know why. Have you any idea why he might? And do you agree that Sunak's the worst for us?
He's good on media. He has a certain level of popularity, but so did Boris Johnson, and look where that got the country. So that's the fear that all they get behind is a charismatic person. There's got to be more to government than just a bit of charisma and getting out on Sky News. There's got to be some actual vision and delivery, some actual care for the people that you're supposed to be governing. And there's never any of that, is there? We should be scared of Rishi Sunak if he give a toss about people.
Who do you think is going to win, Stuart?
The person who is disliked the least, because it's never the person who's liked the most that wins, because they don't like the competition. It's like how John Major got the job. He wasn't the forerunner, was he? He was just the person that, people had the least against.
And they'll try and repair their reputation. Neil, I've got a quote here from the Guardian. The Conservatives are exhausted after more than a decade in office. A rebellious party is as divided over policy as it is afflicted by personal feuds. Basically, they say Labour's a shoo-in. Is this resignation Labour's moment?
No, because Starmer isn't exactly much of an opposition, is he? They're not scared of Starmer. They're not concerned about him at all. So no, absolutely not. I mean, what this election, this popularity contest amongst ourselves is to find out, quite frankly, which turd can roll in the most glitter. That's the reality of it, and we're all going to smell it at some point. In fact, we can all smell it now. I mean, it's probably strong language, but hey, I've got to be honest, I couldn't give two hoots about this election, this popularity contest for who's the best of the worst of the Tories. I couldn't care less, because quite frankly, we've got far bigger issues going on that's been pushed out of the news agenda because of infighting. I mean, the key thing we need to remember is that in October, that's the energy bills of millions of people is going to go up, and it's going to push tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, into not being able to pay their energy bills at all. Okay, the government knew this was coming. They all knew about the character flaws of Boris Johnson, and they did nothing. 142, I think it was, MPs backed him, if I remember that right. But the key thing is they knew it. I mean, before coming on the show, I tried to think of some of the things that define Boris Johnson's government. And this is the list I came up with just off the top of my head: Partygate, tax rise which breached party manifesto pledges, numerous sleaze scandals, unlawful proroguing of Parliament, using public money to attack Labour, breaching election rules where they set up the fact check website thing, hiding in fridges, remember that one? Jennifer Curie, wallpaper scandal, test and trace failures, free school meals, cutting foreign aid, Priti Patel bullying where that was covered up, criticising taking the knee where Boris Johnson said, "I don't believe in gestures," which is all he ever seems to do. The bridge to Northern Ireland, no border in the Northern Ireland Sea, between Northern Ireland and UK rather, triple lock on pensions, and that was, that's what, 10, 12, and that's just off the top of my head that I can remember for where he just where it should be. It should have been gone a long time ago, but instead of it now being focused on what our concerns are, what our issues are, it's now going to be focused entirely on the Tories and which piece of rubbish takes over next. And whoever.
So hang on a second, Neil. Ray, come in.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt directly.
No, it's okay.
The holy grail for the Tories, what they need is somebody who can carry out massive attacks on working class living standards to restore their own profitability, but do it in a way that convinces enough working class people that they're not doing it, or to make them care about something else. So they want a sort of leader who can cover up with lies the fact that what they're really doing is they're like sort of, shaking your hand, but putting your pocket simultaneously.
Yeah, Neil, sorry.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit there, because what I was going to go on to say, it's all right. What I was going to go on to say is that the reality is whoever chooses, whoever the next leader of the Tory party is going to have to do one thing, and that is something that the establishment's going to be happy with. So therefore the system can continue. At the moment, when you listen, because I've been that busy the last few weeks, thankfully I've not seen a lot of it. But all that I've seen is that really, remember during the elections, they talked about this Workington man. Well, now they're speaking to just one person now, and that's Rupert Murdoch. They're appealing to him because they know that he's going to be quite crucial in the media spotlight to say, well, who's going to be on and who we're going to make look good. And that's what it's really about. And that's with the next few months, whilst all the issues that we're all facing are pushed out the media agenda. And it's purely, it's self-servitive. It really is. And we need better than this. It's a system change, not prime minister change, and not government change is what we need.
Absolutely correctly. It's not Boris Johnson that's wrecked this country and left everything in ruins. It's the bloody Conservatives, and sort of until people catch on. I got one last question for you, Neil. John Harris says it's not even the Conservatives; it's the system. That we've got a 19th century system of government, democracies in crisis, MPs who are at best dangerous bullshitters. He says neither party has the answer, and sort of business as usual, even cleaned up a bit, isn't going to work. That seems to me what you're saying.
Sorry, I think you might have to repeat that. Capitalist broadband failed on us again.
That's me. It's my broadband. What he said basically, John Harris was saying that it's the system that's the problem. Sort of the whole system is wrong from beginning to end. Fairly much, it seems like you're saying the same thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the same system of old. One thing I have seen is, and I think Ray touched on this about Suella Braverman, where some touch on it, so I've forgotten who it was now. Where Suella Braverman said yesterday that she's if she becomes prime minister, there'll be
law. Forget about law. There'll be no more laws. Carry on, Neil.
She said that what she'll do is to help with the cost of living crisis, she'll clamp down on benefit claimants and force them into work, because that's the best way of helping people out of poverty. Well, actually, the vast majority of benefit claimants are in work because wages are so low. And that's exactly the problem at the heart of this. And the problem is these rich arseholes down in Westminster don't have a clue. They don't know what it's like for ordinary people. I'm not saying all of them. They're not all the same. I mean, they're really not. But certainly most of the Tories definitely are. They believe this, and they don't see what it's like for their relatives. I mean, they see food banks as a photo opportunity, not as a survival for most people in this country. And I just the system is wrong. It's been the fact that we're now looking at bringing in agency workers to break strikes tells you how entitled this government thinks that they are, and how scared they are of us. And we need to realise our power, get off our knees and fight back. And until that happens, the system will continue to keep riding roughshod over us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, yeah.
Comments. Paul, are you there? Can we have the other stories jingle? We can't hear anything.
He's gone.
Has Paul gone altogether?
All right.
Tell us when we can start. Right, we got two questions, and we got 10 minutes each. The other questions that you chose, by the way, some of the comments have been fabulous, and I promised to read them out, and I just had that time because Ray and Neil are just so full of things that they want to say. Thank you so much. NHS birthday, Stuart. What is there to celebrate?
Other than it being the 74th birthday, there's a tremendous amount to celebrate. And first and foremost, it's the key workers. It's the doctors, the nurses, the cleaners in the NHS, and all the other jobs, all the other roles that, keep it going, keep saving people's lives, keep this nation as fit and healthy as they can be. They go above and beyond for every single person they see. And it was really special that the Miners' Gala recognised that this year, and it was dedicated to key workers like those in the NHS. Number one thing to celebrate. The second thing to celebrate is that, most people still believe in the ideals of the NHS. I think it brings people great pride to know that that's there for them, for their family, for their children, and it's the exemplar across the world in many cases with regards to a modern healthcare system, and certainly there's no one really wanting us publicly wanting to go to insurance unless they have interests in it.
Thank you. Yes, a wonderful institution. Neil, I'm going to hand you the poison chalice here, and I know that you love the NHS too. But your question is there are lots of things going wrong at the moment, aren't there? And tell us about those, and tell us why you think the reason why so many things are going wrong with so many of these trusts and with maternity. I'll leave it to you.
Well, I'll give you a clue. Who's been in government for the past 12 years? Which party that's in government now voted against its initial creation? That's the starting point. But there's something I became aware of when it comes to NHS a couple of weeks ago that I wasn't aware of before, and that's integrated care systems, which very few people know about, and it's because you're not really supposed to. It's hidden away in the Health and Social Care Bill. Now, I did a bit of prep before the meeting on what that is, and I think We Own It sums it up best on their website, where they said integrated care systems bring healthcare, social care, mental health, and community services together under one setting instead of continuing to provide these services separately. ICSs will be overseen by a board of directors. That's the key bit to remember here. In each area that includes NHS providers. The official name for the board of directors is the Integrated Care Board. And despite the government's claims to the contrary, which you might remember during the 2019 general election where Jeremy Corbyn held up the document that was blanked out, and he said that this is the plan, and Johnson denied it. I mean, not like Boris Johnson to lie, is it? Despite claims to the contrary, the bill does not rule out people who work for private companies or who have financial interests in private healthcare sitting on integrated care boards. In fact, the evidence already indicates that private healthcare representatives will have a prominent role in making decisions about healthcare in some areas. That therein lies the heart of the problem in the NHS. You can keep pumping money into it, but because of the amount of privatisation that's there behind the curtain, so to speak, of the NHS, that's where all that money goes. It's something nobody ever talks about. It never reaches the front line because it goes to the shareholders. The only way the NHS will ever be safe is when it's fully public. And until that, it will always be at risk. And the arguments, well, we'll have to keep throwing money, at it. Well, actually, you don't. You don't have to continually throw money at it if there's a system in place where these privatised companies that are essentially now running the NHS are not giving their contracts to their friends, which is currently what's happening. And it's happening throughout. I mean, we've got GP services where they're now privatised. The things that people think of the very heart of the NHS, dentist services are privatised. We have to pay if you want to see a dentist, even if, regardless now, we all have to pay to go and see a dentist. I mean, that is, free at the point of need. Not for dentists, it isn't. So we're becoming more and more increasing this way. And I do worry for the future of our NHS. And I say our NHS, not theirs, ours.
I mean, what strikes me, Neil, I'm coming to you in a moment, Ray. I realise you must be busting to say something, but what strikes me about it is that in Britain, the private companies have found the perfect model, because in America, the private companies sell medical care to people who have to take out insurance. But all those people who can't afford insurance then can't afford medical care, and they can only get what they can sell to people. They're like a retailer of medical care. In Britain, what's happening is that the private companies provide it through the NHS, and the government pays, and then it takes money out of our pockets as taxes to pay them. And it's much more a smorgasbord for the private care companies because they just sort of say, well, we've got to do this and we've got to do this, and up stumps the government with the money. It's almost a free-for-all. Thank you so much. Go on.
I agree. You're absolutely right. I mean, the question we need to ask ourselves is, when did we last have an NHS worker or someone who's worked in NHS as a health secretary? No, I mean, on the Labour benches, you've got Alina Rose Khan, is it? Who's a A&E doctor, who is an amazing person without a doubt. I mean, any speech she does, I'm happy to tune into. I think she's brilliant. Potential future leader of the Labour Party there. But the reality is we've got Sajid Javid, who has interest in privatisation of the NHS. Before that, we had someone that rhymes with a swear word, he wrote a book about the benefits of privatising the NHS. Before that, we had someone else, I can't remember who that was, but and then before that we had Lansbury. Let's not forget about him, who brought in the Health and Social Care Act, Health Social Care Act, which absolutely opened the door to far more privatisation. Mm-hmm. So the danger is privatisation, and we're creeping more and more and more towards it.
I think we've fallen largely to it. Ray, what's your take on all this? And what particularly is the solution? How do you see a way out of the kind of hole that Neil's described, that the NHS has fallen into?
I mean, Neil's done a fantastic sort of speech on that. It's fantastic, sort of comprehensive cover of all of the problems. I mean, the solution to it is to put people's needs above profit. Now, that's an easy slogan, isn't it? But the NHS was a victory for us because it took a whole area of life, necessary social life, out of the profit system. It was provided on the basis of need, which is antithetical. It's completely against the interests of what capitalism stands for. And so really the only way to resolve this problem in the long term is to sort of completely fund it, to provide all these facilities on a state basis from an economy which is publicly owned, where the profits of companies, never mind piddling around with income tax rates, the profits of the economy, the whole economy, can be used to provide the services we all need. That's what socialism would be. That's what we need. Now, in the meantime, I suppose you can talk about, tax increases, funding, but every penny we spend on the National Health Service, either by paying these charges that Neil talked about or anything else, is money that we're not giving the profits to the capitalist class to sort of make them richer. But you're right, we've got the almost weird thing now where we've got this victory of taking this out of the kind of the area of profit making. But then what they're doing, they're sneaking it through the back door. They're actually charging. You go into a National Health Service hospital with the lovely blue NHS, and you think, oh, good old NHS. But every single service is provided by some dodgy company, and you have to sort of you go for an appointment and you're funneled off to some other clinic in some weird part of town. So we just need to take it over again. Just do it what it was supposed to be in the first place.
Renationalise it. Thank you.
Renationalise it, that and everything else, by the way, and you fund it by nationalising everything else as well.
I mean, we're going to deal with very similar issues on our last topic, which is Labour's plans to set up a national care service. I mean, Neil, talk to us briefly, please, about, we've only got 8 minutes left. Talk about what's going on here. What is the promise? What is the hope? What's the plan?
I think it's some rehashed thing from the 2019 general election manifesto from Labour, which this government has denounced as saying it's not something they'll ever return to. But I mean, it's interesting to note what was said in the last manifesto about Labour's manifesto about the National Care Service. It said on page 36, a Labour government will build a comprehensive national care service for England. We will provide community-based, person-centred support underpinned by the principles of ethical care, independent living. We will provide free personal care, beginning with investments to ensure that older people have their personal care needs met, and the ambition to extend its provision to all working age adults. And importantly, it also goes on to say contracts providing care will not be awarded to organisations that do not pay their fair share and do not meet our high quality standards of care. And that's, as I say, that's on page 36 of the manifesto. But from what I can work out of this new thing that Wes Streeting's come up with, it's basically the first bit without the second bit. So it's basically, yeah, we'll look at doing this national care service where you can get any help that you need, but yeah, it might be privatised. It might not be fully under the National Health Service, and we're not too fussed who's really going to provide it. So it's basically as it is now, just under a different name. That's all I can work out of it. I've not really looked too deeply into it because anything that I've got to read from or look at with Wes Street, and I just want to go and punch somebody, to be honest. Mainly him. not physically, just
just a joke.
I agree with you. It's a very depressing thing to read, mainly because it doesn't seem to have any substance to it whatsoever. Ray, I mean, what's your take on this? ICG chair Mike Padgham says short on detail, and it's an opposition party anyway. He didn't seem to have much hope in it. Is it ever going to work? What's your take on this?
Well, it's a great idea, and Wes Streeting is a neighbouring MP to my CLP. So in 2017, I did spend a lot of my time counselling for him, which I have mixed feelings about. I think it's safe to say. But I mean, so I know him well. He's a neighbouring MP to my CLP, and it's of course it's a good idea because it sounds like an NHS, an original 1940s NHS for the care service, but it isn't. They're going to use private suppliers again as well, I think. And then he's saying already, I mean, Streets is already saying, oh well, we won't be able to do it in one term. We'll lay the foundations for it, and then we'll come back when we have a second term and make it even better. Well, you think, well, how many years we've got to wait for this? And see, every single penny we spend on this social care will be taken from profit. Where does money come from? Money only comes from us as workers and profit. So any money we give to care service is money that basically is like increasing our wages by giving us the care service. So if we want this money, we have to take it from the people who've got it. There's no magic about this. We either take it from them or we don't spend it. And of course, any Labour government that tried to implement this would be prevented from spending that money. The ruling class don't want to have all this whole care industry taken back into public ownership or provided. That's why they're quite happy to charge some sort of umbrella organisation of like the National Care Service, but all the services will be provided on the minimum wage staff. And so they'll make profit out of it. It'll be a cash cow for them, but they don't want. It made me laugh. I was thinking before I came on, that if you're in slavery, if you get old, they just let you die or they'd kill you. And feudalism in 19th century capitalism, they work you to death or put you in the workhouse where the conditions are so bad you die quickly anyway. So they solve the problem that way. Now they're resisting giving any money to care. So now they want families, mainly women, to look after old people. They're trying to get all this care of old people just for free, and we have to insist that it's society's responsibility to look after children and old people, cradle to the grave. But any penny we get from them, they'll resist us and fight us tooth and nail. So if the Labour Party is being all kind of moderate now before they even get in, what will happen when they give it all the obvious concessions that they'll be forced to do by runs on the pound, the stock market crash, and everything else?
That brings me to my last point to Stuart. That sort of, Wes Streeting's making all these statements. He's blaming private equity companies. He's blaming capitalism by explicitly. He's talking about Bevan's vision of an NHS. And quotes, the most civilized thing in the world is a system providing healthcare to those who need it. It's, as Neil says, it's a rehash of what the Corbyn government, the Corbyn party was trying to do. And here's the question. Will Starmer ever allow anything like that to become Labour Party policy?
I think that a national care service would become party policy, but the way that it has to be delivered, you need to recognise that it isn't just a one issue thing, that policy. It's so much broader, and we're going into an economy and a social climate that is so different to when the NHS was established. We have to take into account that robots and algorithms can do the jobs of a human being, and people will be then moved and need to migrate into different workplaces. And that needs to be a caring society, one that is, built and prepared and ready for that migration to take place. We need an economy that supports that. We need wages that allow people to work less time and still lead meaningful lives. We need that to be recognised. That needs to be, a real big part of this. We can't have a national care service that'll take care of you in your old age if you can't take care of yourself when you're working. We need real systematic change to be able to deliver on a promise of a national care service in a meaningful way. We need to think big. We really do on this one.
And coming back to the question, do you think that the Labour Party is up to that job?
I think the Labour Party that might be elected soon could be very different to the Labour Party that we have at the moment. Who knows? we've certainly got more prospects than people would imagine in the Daily Mail.
Thank you so much. I always am humbled, listener, by the quality of the answers to the questions and the ideas which people who come on the show come out with. Thank you so much, Ray and Neil and Stuart. And I just get so embarrassed because I'm continually shutting you up, moving on to the next person. And I just feel so bad about it. There's so much more there that you had to give and you didn't get the chance. That's the end of the show. It's been an hour. Doesn't time fly when you're listening to clever people saying clever things? Thank you for all your comments, which have just been whizzing past my eyes, and I've just been so entranced by what my panel have been saying. We're back again next week, but that will be the last show before we break for the summer holidays. Thank you for listening.
Socialist think tank, share it across social media.
Sorry, say that again, Neil. Oh, I've lost Neil. Is it me? Is it me?
It's the broadband attacking again.
Yes, it says that. Oh, Neil, you look so pretty as well, like that. It's frozen you in a very good way. You look good. I'm going to say goodbye now. Thank you, Ray. Goodbye.
Right.
Thank you, Stuart. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Assume that Neil says goodbye. And thank you, Paul, for doing the tech stuff and play the music out. Let's go. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Keep the red flag flying.